on, girl, let's scream.
I am a god.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. This is the part where you run.
Come on, scream.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Scream, a podcast where we dive into our favorite horror movies. I'm Parker.
And I'm Stevie.
And today we're looking at 2019's Us, directed by Jordan Peele.
Join us as we journey to Santa Cruz and learn all about the tethered.
The tethered.
Girl, are you ready to scream?
I'm ready to scream. Come on, girl.
Let's scream.
Okay, well, today we are joined yet again by fan favorite
Keaton.
Hi, thank you for having me. You're welcome.
For those of you who have not seen us, you do not get what is going on right now. No. The voices.
We're the tethered.
Definitely go watch Us. This is the second movie in Jordan Peele June.
Jordan Peele June.
And y'all, Jordan Peele heard about Jordan Peele June.
Must have. He must have.
Because
I like to think so.
That
yeah, today
he has a new movie coming out next month.
on Twitter.
2026.
And Jordan Peele tweeted.
2026.
2026.
Is it okay?
It's long. It's good. It's early announcement.
Well, he's probably in the early development.
Yeah,
stages.
but that's still. I'm like, dang. Like,
but I'm so excited.
2 years. He's announcing it.
The hype is gonna be real.
Oh,
I mean, look
yeah.
at. I mean, the 3 he's done.
Brilliant.
That's such huge.
Yeah.
Also,
They have a claim.
So that's just so crazy. Yeah, he tweeted today that he was gonna be working on a new movie right in the middle of fucking Jordan Peele June. So,
crazy.
Hi Jordan, fan of the pod.
Hey, Mr. Peele.
We know you're listening.
Those of you who don't know Jordan Peele June, we are going through Jordan Peele's 3 films. Mm-hmm. We did Get Out last week. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it.
With Charlie.
Yeah.
Charlie provided some really, really interesting
it was
insight, and it was such.
Yes.
We had such a good discussion. It was really good.
It was a good episode. It was a really good episode. As a friend of the pod and a listener, it was a really good episode.
Thanks, Keaton. Shout out to Charlie. And if you haven't listened to it yet, go listen. Also, please go listen to our first episode with Keaton.
The menu! Yes,
iconic
episode.
So
Yeah,
this was
honestly.
Keaton's first time watching Us.
Yeah.
I've seen Us. I really liked Us. I had seen it the first time. Or I saw it with Parker. Parker had already seen it.
Wherein you guessed the twist in the first 5 seconds of the movie.
I did too.
And Keaton apparently did too.
I did too.
A little bit after me.
Oh,
I will say that.
later.
But no, I got it
Okay.
I was like, oh, duh.
But if you haven't seen Us, you need to go see it and you need to not spoil yourself. Because if you can guess the twist, then you can give yourself a little pat on the back. Because a lot of people guessed it. That was
You're a hot girl if you can guess
yeah,
that.
there was a very
sexy.
large percentage of the viewers who watched this that did guess the twist early on, apparently. I did not see it coming. I was very, very mind blown the first time I watched it.
We'll get into it because I just thought it was... I will get into why I think it was...
Easy to predict, you think?
We'll get into it.
We'll get into it.
I think there's a few reasons.
But yeah, overall thoughts before we get into spoilers for Us.
Well, if you've listened to the menu, you know I'm not a scary movie fan.
I'm so surprised that you watched this movie.
I'm not a horror movie fan at all. But my general thoughts, I love it. If it's campy, funny, I can watch it. And I can push through things that have great stories and great symbolism and really just, there's the Nicole Kidman ad for AMC. And when I'm watching a really good story, that's how I feel.
You come to this place for magic.
Exactly. And Jordan Peele is one of those directors, one of those writers where I'm like, I come to this place for magic. This is where the magic is.
We come to this place for magic.
And so when I can feel that, I can push past the scariness. So it's a great movie. I couldn't even begin to rank them. I'm gonna watch Nope with.
Will it be the first time seeing Nope?
I've never seen Nope.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited.
Very excited
Us was a great movie.
to talk about Nope
lived up to my
as well.
expectations.
Well, I agree with you, Keaton. I mean, I will say, compared to Get Out, I like Get Out better.
See,
Just
I'm
because
real. Even though I thought this one was very predictable, I just really like this one a lot more. So
Oh, really? Okay,
I just think it's
never heard that take before.
I just think this one is so fun.
It is so much fun.
I'm like, yeah, I get the criticism towards it, because we'll get into it. There's, like, you have your problems with it.
I do, but let me be clear, I fucking love this movie.
Like, it's still
it is one of my all-time
But I get,
favorite
like, it's one of
movies.
those movies, it's like when you're comparing, like, greatness to greatness, it's like...
Yeah.
I can see why this movie might have been a disappointment, but I still think it's, like, I think it's fun as hell.
I wasn't disappointed.
I saw this one first.
I just think Get Out.
So maybe
is
that's also
so...
my opinion. Like,
Oh,
why
you
my
saw
opinion-
this one first?
Yeah, maybe that's my opinion swayed on this.
Maybe.
I watched them in
'Cause I think
chronological
I talked
order
about that
as they
where-
were released,
I don't-
and Get Out, like, just I think is so good and so tight
Oh, tight little movie, yeah.
as far as the story goes. But I honestly think like he did a better job with the directing in Us, and the screenplay wasn't the focus. So it depends on what you're, more inclined to
Because
enjoy.
I was just taken away by the direction, the acting.
This is him showing off.
It was a stellar
Oh, the casting
cast.
is...
And I think that's also why I loved it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it was like...
That's how I am with this.
Yeah.
I think...
And we'll get into why I really love the
performances are brilliant.
And brilliant.
Yeah, Lupita Nyango.
And
She's so good.
those kids...
And this was her first. The kids are great too. This was Lupita's first main character. She'd always been a supporting character.
Yeah.
And she needs to lead every movie because she's so fucking good.
She was so good in this.
She is beautiful. She has an incredible range. She's playing two
that's
characters.
what I loved about this movie is everyone's range in this is so good.
Because everyone's playing two characters.
Everyone, and I think every character is just I think that's why every character, because it's such a small ensemble where there's not a lot of side characters like there are in Get Out. Because, with the whole family, it feels like a lot of side characters. Whereas this one, it feels very isolated as much as it's called Us.
Yeah.
And so it's you kind of get to know all these characters, even the side characters that are played by
Elizabeth Moss.
the Scientologist.
The Scientologist.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree.
But you know what I mean? It's
it's a tighter
you still
feel,
even kind
so...
of you love I love.
Sorry,
her
I'm just
family.
laughing at you calling Elizabeth Moss the Scientologist.
She
I just
is.
processed what you said.
She
That's
is.
It's not offensive to point that out. She is.
That's just a fact.
It's just a fact.
It's like me saying I'm gay,
Right.
it's just something.
You're gay?
No.
Oh.
Hypothetically, it was hypothetical.
You guys just have gay sex, but you're not gay.
No, absolutely.
But yeah, I think that Us is fucking brilliant. I think that his directing is so good in this movie. My favorite part about this movie is the soundtrack.
Oh, Minnie Riperton, Janelle Monáe opening it,
The score,
NWA,
the I Got Five on It's creepy version
Yeah.
is probably the da 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 da. It's so scary. It just builds so beautifully. It's probably the most iconic horror movie score in recent memory. I mean, it immediately is synonymous with the Jaws theme or the Psycho theme as far as iconicness.
Yeah.
And he also is great with picking a soundtrack, and he's very particular with his soundtracks. And as a music lover, I very much care about that. That's, again, I think I talked about this last week. I love Sofia Coppola. Because a lot of her films, she very is meticulous with the soundtracks. And I just really appreciate somebody who does that, because I think it adds to the story. And I think he does a great job of doing that.
Shout out to you, Sophia. And Mr. Peele.
But
thanks for listening.
I think I kind of said why I think I like this one a little bit more than Get Out. I understand Get Out, I think with its theming is a little bit more obvious, but also a little bit more relevant and of importance and necessary. And I shouldn't say necessary, because Us is very good, but Us is a very nuanced kind of...
It doesn't, not hold your hand, but you can tell what the theme is.
The theme is,
right
which I think Jordan, I don't mind the Jordan Peele. I think he is very obvious with a lot of the themings, but I think that's on purpose.
Yeah.
Because
whereas you have to think a little harder between the lines in Us.
Yeah. But also the topic of the way the film kind of goes, because it is a very, I mean, we'll get into it when you get into the ending, but it's a very kind of like bittersweet. And it's kind of a like
sadness.
And like I said, like kind of nuanced, and it kind of ends with this kind of, two things can be true.
Yeah.
Like kind of argument, and like, you know what I mean? We'll get into it.
He has so much to say.
It'll make more sense when we'll get into it, but I think that's why I also like this film, is there's so much to say about it, and there is a lot of symbolism.
I have two more little critiques before we get into the plot. Why I would say I don't think it's as tight as Get Out. And I think that there's just a little bit too much of that comedy that he is really good at, but there are moments in Us where he alleviates the tension where I don't think it needed to be alleviated. Sometimes the scary moments, just let them be scary. You don't have to break the tension until the next scene.
I thought there were a lot of scary moments. I was pretty spooked.
I see what you're saying, but see, that's what
It is really scary. No.
I think that's what I like about this.
Let me be clear, this movie is terrifying. Doppelgangers, I talked about this on our Black Swan episode. Mm-hmm. Doppelgangers freak me out.
As they should.
It's a very scary and he does a good job of doing it.
He does a
makes
great
it very
take
much
on
of like a, ooh, I don't like that.
The Tethered are really scary, yeah.
My thing with it is, I think that's what I like about this one, because I like when horror is a little bit more comedic, and I think that's what I like about this one.
And my other critique is just with the story itself. Well, I have a lot of questions at the end of Us.
Loose ends.
There's some loose ends.
I like a loose end.
It's very vague, the lore that we're dealing with here of the Tethered. And I know that shouldn't bother me as much as it does, but it kind of does, especially since Get Out very much told you what was going on.
See, but I like an open door. I like to be able to speculate at the end of a movie. Nothing is perfect and packaged, and this is, because part of the terror of Us is at the end, you go, well, what's going to happen now? That's almost as
very
terrifying
true. Well, I do want a sequel.
As the actual events is. Yeah. I have no clue what would even happen from here. Now let me start to speculate.
That's
smart
that's a
for
very
him
good
too,
point,
because that was a lot of chatter. I remember when Us came out and people were talking about, what do you think would happen? Like, extend the movie and what do you think would happen?
Yeah.
See, I like an open. I like a...
Yeah. I can appreciate that. But and I still, again, I fucking love this movie.
Yeah.
There's nothing I dislike. But again, I just, for whatever reason, I always want to compare it to Get Out. Which is weird, because no one does that with any other director.
No.
For whatever reason, with Jordan Peele's movies, we always have to rank them. And I feel bad for, participating in that. Because they're just so good. They're all so good.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, especially when they're not, sequels.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why I fucking do that.
But I mean, think about, people do it with American Horror Story.
Well, American Horror Story is a different story.
Yeah,
that's Ryan Murphy, girl.
That's true.
Maybe we could talk about some of the American Horror Stories now that I think about it.
There's some good
stuff. That'd be a fun little side bonus series.
Comment below if you think we should do that.
I still like the idea of doing
thank you, Keaton. Thank you, social media.
I like the idea of doing old Goosebumps episodes.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
And also,
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Are You Afraid of the Dark? And also, just Halloween episodes of TV shows or scary episodes.
I would love to play horror games at some point. I think that, or Dead by Daylight, or anything like that. At some point when we get cameras and we're able to film.
Yeah.
Let us know if you'd like to see.
Follow us on Twitch.
Keaton is currently typing up the Twitch as we speak. But yeah. So yeah, anyway, going back to the whole comparing the movies, that's not necessary. So with that being said, yeah, Us is so good. Go watch it before we get into this plot summary, because you don't want it to be spoiled. see if you can guess the twist. That might be fun. And if you don't, I'm sure you'll have a lot to take away from it, and so you'll definitely want to join the discussion.
But before we get into screaming, I do have to say I have
chatty today, girls. Wrap it up.
I have an update on Resident Evil.
No.
Cue the theme song.
Downloading new podcast segment. Stevie's Resident Evil recap.
You're all going to die down here.
I have finished the Resident Evil film series. My favorite thing throughout this series is there's characters that they'll introduce to films, and it's like, oh, don't get too attached to them, because even though they survive, they're never going to be, they don't exist anymore. They're not in the next film, except for the main girl and like 2 other people. And then the ending, the very last movie kind of retcons. Is that retcon? Retcon?
It's like when something that was canonical before is now like just disregarded.
Does the entire like origin of like the virus and like changes it, but like slightly. It's kind of the same, but they change it a bit. So listen, y'all, I love them.
I like you still recommend them. You've had nothing good to say about it so far, and yet you still recommend
I know, they're awful, but they're so good. Because also some films just introduce characters who are like, oh, why is this character here? Oh, they just need to kill off somebody this film. So it's really good for that. Because they just introduce like stock characters, or it's like, this character has no purpose for being here, they just are here so they can die.
Just cannon fodder. Yeah.
It's really funny. And then unanswered questions, I love it, and I couldn't recommend it more, everyone. I just think it's a fun time.
I don't recommend it. Okay. Moving on. Jordan Peele June, us.
Let's get into it.
We will have a whole episode
Chatty
where I
Cathy
go
is
into the
today.
film series for you, Parker. It'll be a bonus episode.
Fun. Yeah, I can't wait. That's gonna be a hit. So without further ado, are y'all ready to scream?
Let's
scream.
Oh, what the hell was that? Woo! Wake up, bitches.
Let's scream!
Let's scream. Okay, so we open on a title card. It says there are thousands of tunnels underneath the United States, and we don't know what half of them are for. That's spooky.
Okay.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of underground, whatever, old nuke bunkers and mine shafts.
I'm sure there's some
scary
shit
some spooky stuff
down
under
there.
us.
Mm-hmm.
America.
Yeah. And America is a big part of the theme. Foreshadowing.
These colors don't bleed.
We then get a TV ad for Hands Across America.
Mm-hmm.
Keaton, would you like to go
Oh,
through
I was gonna say,
Hands Across America?
I was gonna say, everybody, I do have a degree in informatics, so I had to do some research for the pod.
Thank God.
And it was the 1983 phenomenon that was Hands Across America.
Yeah.
So, Hands Across America, run by this organization. Can't give you the name off the top of my head. They are the same organization that is responsible for Live Aid. And
we are the world.
And we are the world. This is their now 3rd philanthropic event. It's specifically for ending hunger and homelessness across America.
And it's always some corny shit.
Has some corny, Hands Across America. And so they wanted to raise $150 million. That was their end goal. 150, remember that, $1 million.
Okay.
They got 5 million people to do Hands Across America from LA to New York. That was the distance. Mm-hmm. Funny enough, we see some symbolism of Hands Across America when Lupita is cutting up the paper and she makes that little thing.
Oh yes. There's a lot of symbolism to Hands Across
and
America.
rural parts of America where people couldn't stand close to each other because of there weren't that many people or whatever.
Yeah.
They would give them those paper hand things that Lupita cuts out to fill the gap.
Yeah.
So
some people didn't want to just drive out to a rural area and do it.
So anyway, Hands Across America happens. It is a huge failure. $150 million was the goal. They raised $15 million. Many people didn't show up. There was all these big gaps. It was hard to film because who's filming what where. The celebrities didn't show up. Huge failure.
That's so funny.
And it was critiqued by saying that the hope was really more for the people participating and not the people it was trying to help. It was more symbolic than actually helpful.
It was more like,
which I'm going to get into
I'm
at the
gonna
end.
feel so good.
I'm going to get into it at the end.
So much to the, like...
Remember that thought. That was the big critique of Hands Across America, because at the end I'm going to talk about that again. And so Hands Across America is a great symbol for this movie.
What was the charity for? What charity?
It was a nonprofit organization who, like, so We Are the World.
It was for poverty
and different things. So, like, We Are the World was specifically for Africa, and Live Aid was also for Africa.
So Hands Across America was for America?
It was for America.
It was for homelessness
and hunger in the United States.
Disenfranchised and trying to raise money for that.
Yeah.
So people were participating, and like the Reagans participated.
So everyone did, though. It was like truly a bunch of celebrities did.
It was just like, let's pretend like we give a shit.
It was really, we have to come together to solve these problems, and then
it'll make us feel better,
and then eventually,
because that's a huge theme. So yeah, this movie we'll say the theme is how we treat the disenfranchised and
privilege.
Yeah, it's a big critique
on privilege.
And
Hands Across America
is America. You need to know that kind of stuff, because the commercial shows you. It's a very corny. Yeah, it's on this retro 80s TV. There's some VHS. I saw Goonies was one of the VHSs, which they go underground. Goonies. That's part of that story. But yeah, like, it all kind of ties into the theme. And of course, because this is a Jordan Peele movie, we're going to get into those sort of like socioeconomic and those political issues that are fun to dissect. And that's why we love Jordan Peele. Then we're at Santa Cruz Beach in 1986. We meet our main character, Addie, a little girl who is with her parents on her birthday. Her dad is drunk.
Trash.
Yeah, and he's playing carnival games. He wins her a Michael Jackson Thriller
t-shirt.
Great prize from this.
I know, right?
From this carnival, you could never get something that cool.
Yeah.
Like, that was just some stupid plush. I'd take a t-shirt.
Right,
like, that is great.
Can I get a Me Espresso t-shirt?
Especially 86. Like, that's like.
That was Michael Jackson was at like his peak. Yeah, absolutely. He was the most famous performer on earth, and Thriller was, it's still like
I think it's the best-selling album, or maybe it's second best. I don't know.
Oh my god! My stepmom was telling me the other day she has a copy of like an original copy of Thriller, and she said she'd give it to me.
Wow!
Like the vinyl.
Oh my god, that's so cool! You gotta frame that.
No, I know. It's probably super rare, or maybe not. I don't know. But
if it's a first pressing, it's at least like
it might be, honestly. She was a huge Michael fan.
If it's a first pressing, then that's worth like that's a big deal. But I mean, it all comes down to like condition.
The prize is labeled prize number 11.
11, which we see 11 again.
Yeah, that number is very much represented many times throughout this film. So they're walking around, and her dad really wants to play whack-a-mole. And the mom is like giving him attitude, like, well, you're going to watch your kid, this and that. I have to go pee. He's like, yeah, I'll keep an eye on her. Proceeds to just continue to play whack-a-mole.
Yeah, no regard.
I love that it's whack-a-mole, too, because at the end of the day, whack-a-mole is a game where you're bopping people down to keep them below.
Underground,
to keep them trapped underground. I thought that was really cool. So, Addie takes this opportunity while her dad is distracted and starts wandering off around the beach.
I was a wanderer.
Oh, God!
I used to wander away all the time.
That's so scary.
In grocery stores, we had to shut down many a Walmart.
Did you? I got lost in Menards one time. I do remember that. Yeah. And I was like, I can't find my dad.
No, I didn't care. My mom was like, "Where's Keaton? Where is he?" And I'm just like, I'm looking at the toys.
I'm looking at toys. Then she sees this guy holding a sign. It's this homeless guy. And the sign says Jeremiah 11:11.
And so
come on, Catholic school.
Yes.
So that verse is about how God will bring upon disaster. I forget about one of the tribes of Israel,
Mm-hmm.
or not Israel, whatever. I don't know what it's traditionally called.
Canaan or whatever.
Canaan, one of the tribes, and it's because their prayers. He would bring upon disaster. They would cry out for help, and he would not come because their prayers were hypocritical.
Ah.
So this movie is also so already
calling out bullshit,
basically. And privilege.
That's
and
really interesting. So, but remember this man because he will come back later.
Yes,
he will.
And he's kind of spooky. He just kind of glares at Addie and holds up the sign. Then she goes down to the beach, and we see some lightning because this is like late at night, and it's spooky on the horizon. It starts to rain, and she takes refuge from the rain in this attraction called Vision Quest, and the tagline is "Find yourself."
And it's a mirror house.
It's a house of mirrors. It's
spooky woods.
got some cool animatronics. Like there's an owl animatronic that jump scares her.
It was spooky.
It's quite spooky, and it's like this like woodland forest, and there's paintings of all these kind of like they look like Disney rides, like sort of like a Snow White or something like that. And she goes into the Hall of Mirrors part, and suddenly the power goes out.
And if I were Addie,
shit.
I would
shit my fucking
pee
pants.
myself, throw up, be sobbing. I would have been inconsolable.
Because there's already a spookiness of being on an attraction and it breaking down.
Yeah.
And
let alone.
And the animatronics just kind of like frozen there in silence. Ugh, it gives me the heebie-jeebies already. So she's trying to find the exit. She sees the glow of the exit sign and she walks towards it. Boom, she walks into a mirror because she's in this huge house full of mirrors, and all the perspective is fucking her up and disorienting her. So she can't find her way out. So she's really scared, and she starts whistling the song of the Itsy Bitsy Spider to herself to like calm her nerves.
She is, first of all, the cutest little girl.
Yeah, Addie is really cute. I like her little pigtails. She's got those beads, those little like
like little 80s little like plastic beads, like hair ties. Yeah,
she's super cute, and you really are so scared for her in this moment.
Yeah. Oh, I'm with her.
Another thing, I never like when kids are like, nobody wants to see a kid like in this situation.
Yeah, instantly you're like clutching your pearls.
I feel her. I'm like, I get you.
Because I would be scared. I would be scared at 27 years old in this moment.
Yeah.
Especially because as she starts to whistle, someone else in the room starts whistling back at her.
Spooky, spooky, spooky!
She starts backing up, and she bumps into what we think is her reflection, but it's facing the other way.
When
she turns around, she sees that it is another person who looks exactly like her. And her eyes go really wide.
Yeah.
And then we cut away. We get these opening credits. And this music is so spooky. It's this like kind of tribal music.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a zoom out. We see these rabbits in cages. And there's one black rabbit. All the other rabbits are white. But that symbolizes how someone would feel out of place.
And it also has some symbolism later in the...
Which is a spoiler, so we'll get to
It also has some other
there.
symbolism to the film.
Yeah, rabbits are important. And we'll discuss that later.
That like black rabbit, like...
Yeah, being out of kind of place with all these white rabbits.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And by the way, a lot of my analysis comes from like videos I watched of Jordan Peele explaining this movie.
Okay.
So a lot of the
That's
shit
good
I'm
to
getting
know. That's
straight
good to
from
know.
him. Okay. And before people start telling me that I'm wearing like a tinfoil hat.
Mine is not straight from him. You can tell me that I'm wearing a tinfoil hat.
Well, I'm excited because
I am.
Yeah, I'm very excited to hear you talk
fully
about
am.
Also, Keaton is a tethered because Keaton's a twin.
Yeah,
By the way.
I have a real life tethered.
Tethered! Raina! Raina! So, yeah, we're also, the bunny cages are in this, like, weird, spooky classroom.
Like a classroom.
Yeah, I didn't get where they were.
Yeah. Just...
That's another part of this movie is you kind of feel unsettled because you don't always know where you are.
Yeah.
It doesn't always make sense because it's, either...
This movie's scary.
Yeah, it's a scary movie.
In our like initial review, when I said I'm surprised you watched this movie, Keaton, because like and that you could like sit through it because you are so like prone to being scared.
Yeah.
This movie like gave me nightmares. Like I don't get scared. Like
oh yeah.
But it is a home invasion movie, and those tend to fuck me up the most.
Yeah.
But this one like is really unsettling, and we'll get into even more creepy shit that happens. But we first meet our family, our main characters of the movie. We've got Addie, the mom, her husband Gabe, her son Jason, and her teenage daughter Zora. And they're driving to Santa Cruz, where they have a vacation home a little off the coast. They also have a cute stick figure family, like one of those bumper stickers that is like a stick figure representation of your family. Their dad, we'll go through their personalities, right? Because we kind of get introduced to them. Yeah. We've got Addie, who's kind of shy. She's like a reserved, soft-spoken. We've got Gabe, who is like the doofiest, corniest dad in all of cinema. I love him. He's so funny. And he's hot, and he's even more hot based on his, like, derpiness. Yeah. And then, Zora's really funny. She is, like, very much the typical teenage girl.
Older sister
vibes.
Over her mom, over her brother.
Yeah.
Totally just an icon of teenage girlhood.
They're like, well, why don't you want to run track anymore? And she's like, I just want to drive. Like, all she cares about is getting her license. Yeah. Her younger brother is Jason, and Jason is he's a cute kid, and he's like, seems like he'd be fun to have a conversation with. Yeah. But he's just kind of a weirdo too. Like, he's kind of a dorky, like, quiet kid. He reminds me of his mom a lot. Yeah. And you can tell that the mom, Addie, has an especially close relationship with Jason.
Which we'll get into that one.
Yeah. They get to their vacation home, and their dad, like, dabs on them. And they're like, oh, Dad, you're so annoying. You're lame.
And he is so fine.
That's what I just said.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm saying it too. Just so everyone knows how fine he is. Like,
he is.
He is.
Because not only is he so hot, but his personality is just so, like, charming and, like, dumb. He's such a himbo.
Yes.
I love Gabe.
I love a himbo.
Yeah. They're sitting there eating, and we get that conversation about her wanting to drive. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Jason wears a little Wolfman mask all the time. He's just because he's like that quirky kid who has to, have a costume on, which I love that trope. Yeah. Whenever you see a kid out in public, like, wearing a Spider-Man costume, you're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Gabe brings up the fact that they need to go to the beach later that evening because he told his friend, Josh, that his family's also vacationing, and they're very competitive with each other, Gabe and Josh. They're probably like frat bros back in the day.
Like something along those lines.
Gabe is talking about going to the beach, and Addie starts to get, like, freaked out. Yeah. She immediately gets, like, really bad anxiety about the beach for whatever reason. And she's like, what beach? And he's like, well, Santa Cruz, duh. Like, that's the beach. That's where we're at. Yeah. And yeah, she does not like that. Jason comes up, he wants to show them a magic trick, he says. And he has this little like lighter thing where you like flick it and it's supposed to spark, apparently. Yeah. But it doesn't work. And they're like, oh, it doesn't work? He's like, yeah, I left it here last year. This thing's kind of bullshit. And they're like, whoa! He's only like 8 or something. He's maybe 7, I think. No, he's 8. I think he's like 8 years old. And they're like, what is this language? And he's like, no cussing at a dinner table. And Gabe like points at him. And Jason goes, when you point one finger, you've got 3 fingers pointing back at you. Like,
gagged him.
Gagged his ass.
Got his ass, I fear.
And they're a really cute family. They're funny. And again, Jordan Peele has really likable characters.
Yes, that's what I just think that's what I liked about this the first time I watched it, and I just loved it again the second time. It's like this family, you just love them so much.
Yeah.
They're
and
so
you like
lovable.
know them. You know
we all know these people. Yeah, they're hilarious. So then we get a flashback to childhood Addie, right after the incident. Which we haven't seen yet. We don't even know what happened. We just saw that she saw another, like, twin little girl.
And people freaked out.
She has seemingly just been completely traumatized into not even being able to talk anymore. She was so scared. And her mom is crying, and they're at the therapist's office. And she's like, I just want my little girl back. And the dad comes out. He's like, whatever, I'm going to go have a smoke. Because you can tell now, like, that marriage is just completely fucked. Because he was supposed to watch the little girl, and she ran off and got traumatized. Because he was, just drinking, being
and the
careless.
therapist kind of recommends, because they're like, how do we get her to talk? She recommends.
Says, why don't you try putting her in the arts?
In arts.
Draw or
dance.
Very Dance Moms coded.
Yeah. And there's this weird moment, like, the dad comes out and he, like, places his hand on Addie's head and he looks at her. And you can tell, like, he does not even know what to say because he's like, I don't even recognize my daughter anymore because she's just so shocked.
Yeah.
It's very sad and, yeah. We cut back to Addie as she's reminiscing on this, like, adulthood Addie. And she looks over, there's like a Lego spider on the table, and a real spider comes out crawling from underneath the Lego.
There's a lot of that symbolism of like...
Doubling, yeah.
Doubling throughout this film.
But
like
one
not
of them's
quite the same. Not quite the same. Because like we'll see, I think we may have already seen a shot of it, but maybe it's like... later, but like we'll see an 11:11 on the clock, and it's like it's
that's
the same,
later.
but it's technically different because
there
what's
are
the hour,
11s
what's the
all
minute.
over this movie. Like I'm pretty sure like at some point on the TV, maybe there's like a baseball game or something, but like the score is at 11:11, like tied 11:11. So like it's just like everywhere. Like there's so many shots that have the number 11 in it. So now adult Addie is trying to convince her husband to cancel on the beach plans. She ultimately gives in because he's cute, basically. He, like, kind of charms her a little bit.
Yeah.
But
well, no, he kind of guilts her because he's like, well, the kids are looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's the first summer we've been back since Grandma died.
He did. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he doesn't charm her. He kind of guilts her. See, Parker, you were just horny watching it. And we're like, we'll go to the beach. Let's go to the beach. I would go to the beach with him if he said.
Girl, you're not even wrong about that one. You're not even wrong about that one.
Meanwhile, he was gaslighting the fuck out
Yeah,
of her.
he was like, Grandma's dead. The kids just want to go to the beach, but Mom said no, so...
Y'all, I was dickmatized watching that.
So, anyways.
Yeah, Abby goes downstairs and she's looking for Jason. He's, like, hiding. She goes into her old room.
Little kids just be doing that.
Yeah, little kids do crazy shit. They're always hiding.
Watch this, and then they just, like, jump in place.
Look what I do! Then they run to the other room.
And she goes down. She had this old ballet room.
Yeah.
So this is where we learn that when she was a little girl, after the incident, she started to dance and did ballet as a way to express her emotions that she couldn't through speech because she lost her ability to talk.
And seemingly, she became a well-adjusted adult. Like, it worked.
Right.
So we can also deduce she's been here since she's been coming here since she was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
This is a family house.
Yeah,
So it's
but
probably
she just did not want to go back to the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jason is hiding in the closet and he scares his sister, and she locks him in the closet, which swings closed on itself when you remove the doorstop. And he was using a little toy ambulance.
Yeah.
And so he starts freaking out because he's like, is trapped in a scary dark closet. And so Addie goes in, she lets him out. But that's just to kind of set up later, this door closes in on itself. They go out and we see Gabe like showing off. He bought a boat. And he's all like, look at my boat, like, driving around.
And it's a terrible boat.
The boat, like, immediately stops working. Like, the engine just turns off, and apparently you have to bang it to get it to work.
Yeah, he's, like, slamming the
They're
side
all
of it.
so unimpressed. They're like, what is that?
Leans to the left.
Yeah, it leans to the left, which is, foreshadowing. I wonder what else leans to the left, Gabe.
Oh, my God.
Podcast canceled.
Say goodbye to ad revenue if it was sponsored.
I'm sorry, I'll take myself to horny jail. We'll keep going.
You're never going to get any ads being like that.
But I like that he called his boat the Crawl Daddy.
Because he's a crawdaddy.
He's a crawdaddy. But yeah, they're all so unimpressed. They're like, Dad, like, stop, you're corny, da-da-da-da-da. They go to the beach, and they're just kind of sitting there in silence, and Zora is on her phone. She says, oh, did you guys know the government puts fluoride in our water to, like, try and control us? And no one's listening to her, and she's like, oh, I guess no one cares about the end of the world.
Right, girl, I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm worried about? I'm worried about this mole that appeared on my arm. Like, where'd that come from, girl? I don't know. I'm not worried about shit.
I'm worried
like
about
that.
the mortgage, girl.
I'm worried about my mortgage.
Right, exactly.
I'm worried about the end of the world. I wish the world would end. I wouldn't have to pay my taxes anymore.
Period.
Girl. So, no, I don't care.
And I heard fluoride's good for your teeth, so...
No, but yeah, fluoride
Keaton
is
did
good for
say
your
that.
teeth, yeah.
Keaton said that yesterday.
No, you're supposed to, like, fluoride your teeth, apparently.
So you know what? They can control my mind, but I don't have cavities, so...
Period.
So they can do whatever they want, I guess.
Hell yeah.
And Jason and Zora start bickering, and he tells her to kiss his anus. And the parents are like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah,
like,
Gabe
anus
was...
isn't a swear word, which is true.
And Gabe was like,
I
I
would
wish
rather
you
you
would
have used
yeah.
a swear word. Ew, kiss
Which
my anus.
I agree. Like, I'd rather hear a kid say ass than anus.
It's so funny. And then he's like, okay, let's just put on the radio, and I've Got 5 on it plays.
Yeah.
I Got 5 on it. And they're like jamming out, and the little kid's like, what's this song about? And Zora's like, it's about weed. And he's like, no, it's not. Gabe is like, it's not. It's just a dope song. Like,
It's not about don't do drugs.
yeah. Which is funny because that song literally is about drugs. Like,
Yeah,
very
it says
clearly.
weed in it.
Yeah, it literally does talk about weed. Yeah, explicitly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that he's like just denying that, and that ties into the themes of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is, we're just always like just shrugging off shit
That we don't care about.
that
Like,
it would inconvenience us.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and this is a really cute scene to me. Like, I fell in love because you have Zora, and Gabe interacting. Addie's teaching Jason how to like snap on beat.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. And
And-
she's kind of offbeat.
And she's not really on beat, but it was a cute,
which is
moment.
really interesting. I
Yeah.
think that is foreshadowing. Yeah.
It was a cute little moment in the car on the right
Yeah.
to the beat. Like, again, great setup of I know this family.
Love the characters.
I thought that because I started snapping along with her, and I was like,
And
this
you
feels-
were.
Oh no,
on
she's
it.
going too
Yeah.
fast. Yeah,
I was
like,
like,
it's very purposely. She's
I was like,
offbeat.
this feels wrong. I was like,
Yeah.
she's not going right.
She's going like on a weird downbeat or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel natural, and I think that that is foreshadowing to her character.
Yeah.
But yeah, they get to the beach and they notice as they're driving in, there's this ambulance, and they're loading a dead body on a stretcher into the ambulance. And I'm like,
Uncovered,
kids,
too.
Kids, close your eyes, This is a dead body. And Addie gets a good look at the guy. It's the homeless guy who had the Jeremiah 11:11 sign from when she was a little girl. He's just older now. And yeah, he's dead and he's bloody.
It was weird that it was like unbagged dead body. You can finally
Right,
see.
yeah.
Like, it was totally just for a horror movie.
You're right.
Because in real life it would have been
They
covered
were like, oh my god,
up.
cover this
True,
up. Like,
true.
because that's a cross-contamination issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is straight up just scary movie shit right there. Yeah. But they get to the beach and they're walking.
Let's go to the beach each.
Who am I? Keem and Josh.
Keem and Josh.
Let's go to the beach.
Okay, so as they're walking across the beach, there's this really cool bird's eye view shot, and their shadows are like the main focus of the shot. Again, another like, oh, it's a double. It's a shadow of something. Yeah. They meet up with their friends who are just these uppity, rich, white people.
Yeah.
I think that Gabe was in a fraternity with Josh back in the day, because they have that bro energy with each other.
Yeah, it's very much like we've been in competition for the last 20 years.
They work together.
They're both salesmen or something. Like something where they would be in competition with each other. Like
they're
sales
always trying to one up each other.
Because like it's not just like a
hey, we're friends.
Yeah, it's like a I'm better than you.
Because he's like, yeah, well, guess what? I got a boat. And he's like, oh, did you remember the flare gun, though? And Gabe's like, shit, I didn't remember. He's like, I knew you'd forget the fucking flare gun. Bro.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, yeah. The wife is Elizabeth Moss, and she notices that Addie's really quiet, because she's just this character is very chatty. Yeah. And she's very, like, LA. I get LA vibes from her.
She's just, like, always gossiping, bitching, and I would vibe with her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love her.
She's like, yeah, Josh doesn't even fuck me anymore. Like,
she's just going on.
Just oversharing.
And Addie's like, yeah.
And Addie's like, I'm sorry, I have a hard time, like, talking and being social in general. I'm just kind of awkward. Yeah. And she's like, oh, it's okay. Like, I totally get that. Anyway, so, like, she's, like, going on about her own problems. Yeah. And she's like...
Are you a good listener? That would be mean. Are you a good listener?
Well, it's okay. You don't have to talk. I'll just do all the talking.
Yeah. I'll yap.
Yeah. So Kitty's gotten some work done. And she shows it off to Lupita. And she's like, look, I got a little something done. Do you notice? And I love that she's talking. She's, like, asking Lupita if she's ever gotten anything done. And Lupita says no. And Kitty goes... Not like you would need anything. Whore. And the twins...
Oh my god, iconic twins.
So it's these... Their friends have twin daughters. And they're just these obnoxious, like, bitchy little girls, basically.
Literally us.
It's the two dumb bitches saying exactly. They have, like, ADHD out the ass. They're probably both, like, maybe 16 or 17.
Yeah.
And they're always doing gymnastics everywhere. They're the girls at school who are like, let's just, like, do cartwheels everywhere.
Yeah. Let's go on a cartwheel in the hallway real quick.
Yeah, let's just go flip around. Yeah. And they jinx each other. They're like, you owe me a Coke. Ha 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 ha. Double jinx. Ha 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 ha. And they're like, your brother's really, like, weird. Like, what's his problem? And Zora's like, he just has a hard time focusing. Like,
leave him alone.
Yeah, Jason goes, he has to go pee. So he wanders around trying to find a bathroom. He walks by Vision Quest. But he doesn't go inside.
He doesn't go in.
He just goes into the porta potty to go pee. Addie's talking to Kitty. And she's kind of zoning out because Kitty, is just the chattiest bitch that everyone wants to zone out to. Yeah. And a frisbee whizzes right past Addie's face and, like, lands right perfectly centered and aligned with the circular design that's on her towel.
Right on top of it.
Yeah. Like, just, like, perfectly
on top.
And Kitty says, I'm having so many crazy coincidences today. And Addie kind of to herself is like, yeah, me too. Because she has been noticing, like, weird shit like that all day. Jason comes out of the bathroom. And he sees a man wearing a red jumpsuit, facing away, and he has his arms outstretched. And he has blood dripping off his fingers.
He's also wearing a jacket.
And it looks familiar.
It's a familiar jacket.
Yeah.
And if you kind of get a shot of his face, and he looks kind of familiar.
Addie realizes she doesn't know where Jason is and starts freaking out. Oh my God, where's my kid? Look at they go all around the beach looking for him.
It's the beach she got lost on.
Yeah,
She's
so she's
nervous about
really
it.
nervous. She finally finds Jason and she's like, oh, thank God, Jason. Which is good that she found him, but she's just very rattled.
Yeah.
So that night, Addie first is like, okay, let me go and like tell the kids good night. I love how she tells Zora to like turn her phone off, and Zora's like, okay, and like then gets under the sheets.
Me
and, like,
with my Nintendo DS.
Yes, right. I pulled this shit too. My parents didn't know that my iPod Touch could like get on the internet and shit. Yeah.
You were
Suckers!
You were looking up boys kissing every night.
No, I was looking at that gay ass shit.
Boys kissing.
So yeah, I thought that was very relatable.
Boys kissing.
Of Zora like immediately turning her phone back on like as soon as her mom leaves the room. She goes and she puts Jason to bed, and he says, "Oh look at the clock," and it's 11:11 p.m. exactly. She sees a drawing that Jason was just coloring, and it depicts
him seeing the man with the bloody
on the
hands.
beach. Yeah,
And she's like, "Who is this?"
and he's like, "Well, I don't know.
I don't know.
Some guy I like saw." And so she's like, "That's weird." Then she goes to the bedroom with Gabe, and he strikes like that sexy pose on the bed with like his legs all spread, and he's like, hey. And
She is fully turned, like looking out the window. She's like, "I want to leave."
yeah, she's very anxious and paranoid that some shit is gonna go down, and she tells him, "I just can't be here right now." And she feels like there's been a black cloud hanging over my head this whole time. I don't even feel like myself right now.
And this is when she goes into this. Is this when she tells him about
Yeah, because
what she experienced as a little girl?
she says, like, listen to me, I'm being 100% serious. I need to tell you something. And she says, when I was a little girl, I got lost at the beach. I went into the House of Mirrors there, and I encountered a little girl who looked exactly like me. And he was like, well, it was a House of Mirrors.
Yeah, he kind of was like, "You're dumb," but
She's like, it wasn't a reflection. She was real. And she said, and my whole life, I felt like she's still coming for me. And Lupita's performance is very chilling in this moment. Like,
yeah,
she really sells the fear. And I like how in any other movie, Gabe, which he kind of is at first, but would be the kind of douchey husband that doesn't believe what's going on, and like it doesn't share in his wife's concerns when she's being like genuine about what she's anxious about. But Gabe very quickly is like, okay, no, I can tell that like I believe you, like this has you really shook up, like, and I appreciate that. Like
that will also shows like how good their relationship is.
Yeah.
Like he really knows her. He's like, you wouldn't be acting this way.
For no reason.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
didn't mean this.
And he says, well, you know, if she's real, you have nothing to worry about because I'm here and I'm pretty sure I could kick your ass. And I thought that's such a good line. Gabe is such a funny character. He reminds me of Rod from Get Out in that he's that perfect comic relief that we need. So suddenly the power goes out.
Again, pissing myself.
Jason comes out and he goes, there's a family in our driveway.
See, and my heart started racing.
It's the scary. I remember when this trailer came out and this scene played in the trailer, and it like affected me. I was like purely terrified of this whole concept. Because I already hate home invasion stuff. It already gives me the heebie-jeebies more than any other like thing.
And then to throw in doppelgangers,
and the fact that they're doppelgangers, and they're weird yeah. So they go out and they're looking out the window, and we see them, and it's a family.
And they are just standing in a line.
Standing there in a line, just staring and being really fucking weird. Addie immediately calls 911. She does not
hesitate
any time.
Good instinct girl.
Yeah. Which, again, Jordan Peele writes really good characters that are smart.
Yeah.
They make smart decisions, so you're not like, what are you doing? But Gabe wants to handle the situation.
Yeah, and he wants to dab
Gabe
him
gives us
up.
that moment of, what are you doing?
Let me just take care of it. Like, I'm the man kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he goes out there, and he's trying to, like, address them. And he's like, excuse me, do we have a problem? Like, you're gonna have to leave. You're acting weird. And the family just continue
To stare.
So, he goes back, and he gets a bat, and is, like, gonna go out and intimidate them. And he's like, he puts on the deep voice, and he's like, now I already done told y'all to get up my property. Like, tries to act all hard. He's like, I suggest that you get off my property, because if you want to get crazy, we can get crazy.
And they said, let's get crazy.
And he goes, now the cops are already on their way. His voice keeps getting deeper.
Like, deeper as it goes.
It's so good. But as soon as he says that, the family immediately begin to, like, advance on him.
But they, like, just, they kind of
disperse.
Well,
Yes.
they do that weird, like, they do like a...
Yeah, they communicate in this weird, like, clicking
They do like
language.
a click thing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden disperse.
The two, like, younger
The kids
go, and they, like, immediately go around to the back of the house. And the big one immediately starts to advance on Gabe and just creepily start walking towards him.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh shit, and he goes inside. And he's like, okay, no, we gotta call the cops. And she's like, I did. They're 15 minutes away. And he's like, fuck, because he knows that that's too late. And Addie she's got both arms around each kid.
Yeah.
Holding them tight. Because she knows, and she told Zora, she said, Zora, get your shoes on. Because, you know, as we'll find out.
Another smart.
But I think it's because, as we'll find out, I think Addie already knows exactly what's gonna go down.
Oh.
Which makes sense later, that she would know.
Oh, Keaton pointed that out, because by this point, like, Keaton, like, we both knew. Like, because Keaton at this point knew the whole, like, oh, this is what.
The twist.
This is had figured out the twist.
So we'll get into that. But
so Keaton was able to be like, oh, this is...
Think about this, think about this, think about this. Yeah.
Exactly.
We'll get into it.
Mm-hmm. So they turn around too, and, like, out the window, you see, like, the little kid, like, crawl really creepily up a tree. Which is so... And he's got a little mask on. Well, I'll describe them here in just a second. But we hear from the front porch someone whistling the Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Yeah.
And we see that person grab the hide-a-key, like the fake rock that has the key in it for the front door.
Yeah.
And Gabe's like, how did they get in? And she's like, oh, they must have found the hide-a-key. And he goes, what kind of white people shit is this?
Yeah.
And he tries to stop them from coming inside. He's trying to hold the door closed. But the man reaches in, grabs the baseball bat, and then, like,
smacks his leg
really hard. Yeah.
And it hurts.
And, like, kind of disables Gabe, takes him out. The man comes in, and this is when we fully see that this is a doppelganger of Gabe.
A little different.
Mm-hmm.
His beard's a little bit fuller.
And not wearing glasses. And just creepy. Ooky spooky. The family all make their way inside and corner our family into the living room.
My family. That's my family.
Into the living room. And we see that they are all doppelgangers of each member of the family.
Mm-hmm.
So...
And I love when the mother, Red, enters.
Yeah, because she enters, she's got this, she kind of walks like a sim a little bit.
She has, like, this, she just walks, like, with her hands, like, in front of her, like, holding a pair of scissors. Like, right in front of her, like, stomach. And then she
kind of shuffles around. She goes in, like, a straight line.
She just walks very stiff, and yeah, she, like, perfectly turns, and then, like...
It's when you're playing The Sims and you click on, like, a part of the room and it says go here, and your sim has to, like, walk in a perfectly straight line to it.
Because they can't go diagonal. Like, she doesn't. She can't walk diagonal.
She can't walk diagonal.
But, like, she kind of, like, is taking in the house. looking around it.
Yeah.
She's got, okay, we can describe what they each look like because we get a good view from here. So Red is Lupita's doppelganger. And she has unruly hair because Addie wears her hair in like really tight braids.
Yeah.
And she has this unruly, crazy hair. Her eyes are like bleached. So it gives her this really scary, like wide-eyed look.
And also, I think she has one of her eyes is looking the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like a little, she's like a wandering eye kind of eye. Yeah. She's got one eye on the prize.
And her other on the crown.
On the crown.
That's what I said to Keaton last night.
And then Zora's doppelganger is really scary. She has, like wide-eyed, no eyebrow, slicked back hair, spooky smile. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she has little like hair clips.
Little hair clips. She got
and she just got the biggest smile on her face.
And,
creepy.
We already described Gabe's. So then it's Jason's doppelganger, who I guess is named Pluto. And he is the creepiest one, in my opinion, because he's wearing a creepy mask, which kind of looks like a surprised face. It's kind of a ghost face, like that kind of...
It's like a compression mask.
Compression mask?
It's like when burn victims have to have special garments.
Right.
It's real tight to the skin.
But the mouth on it is like a blacked out circular mouth.
And the eyes are circular. It's very
so it just,
the Scream dimension.
Yeah. Kind of a ghost face vibe where it looks like a surprise face. Which is really spooky. And we see the mom. She's holding the golden scissors. They're all wearing red jumpsuits, and they have one glove on, like a leather glove.
Fingerless leather glove.
Yeah. And the little boy comes in and kind of jump scares them all because he crawls on his hands and knees like a dog. It's really freaky.
Yeah.
And he lights a fire so they all can get a good look at him. And Jason says, "It's us." Ooh, and that was the end of the trailer. Like when the trailer first came out, he goes, "It's us," and it goes, dun, dun, dun. It plays the "I got five" creepy version.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, "Oh, that looks fucking scary, bro!" Like, oh my god.
And it's such a good movie.
Red gives her speech, and if you guys will allow me to, I would like to do a dramatic interpretation of her speech.
Oh my gosh, yes!
Oh.
Once upon a time, there was a girl, and the girl had a shadow. The two were connected, tethered together. When the girl ate her food, it was given to her warm and tasty. But when the tethered ate, she had to eat rabbit, raw and bloody. On Christmas, the girl received wonderful toys, soft and cushy, while the shadow's toys were so sharp and cold they sliced through her fingers. The girl met a handsome prince, but at the same time, the shadow met Abraham. It didn't matter if she loved him or not. After all, he was tethered to the girl's prince. Then the girl gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. But the shadow, she gave birth to a little monster.
And it like cuts to fucking Ombre. And she's like,
she's giving like the creepiest smile. I love it.
The girl had a second child. A boy this time. They had to cut her open to get the baby out. The shadow had to go through it all herself. She named him Pluto. He was born to love fire. So, you see, the shadow hated the girl so much for so long until she realized she was being tested by God. And then Gabe goes, "Excuse me?" She just like looks at him like, "Are you really gonna interrupt my story?"
You're really... You have a lot of audacity to interrupt my fucking story. Let's remember who's in charge right now.
And he goes, "You can have whatever you want. I mean, you can have my bow." And Zora goes, nobody wants the boat. And then Gabe's tethered, like, goes,
yeah.
Like, it's like, shut up! And I wrote down, I noted, this movie's way funnier and way less scary than I actually remember it being.
That's what I felt like watching. I was like, when Keaton was like, this is scary, I was like...
the set, like, when the family's out there, it's so scary, but the moment they come inside and, like, the bitch starts talking, you're like,
oh,
what is this?
They're here for a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
They're here for fun.
Yeah.
They're have a good time.
I was still scared, but whatever.
It is, because it's just the concept is so freaky.
It's very tense.
Very tense.
The way, like, you did first of all, stand out performance of that monologue. That was beautifully renditioned. But she does it so much slower.
Yeah.
So the tension really, really builds.
Yeah. And
she's
her
taking
voice,
big like...
because I'm doing, like, a shitty version of the voice, but her voice...
She cracks way more.
Cracks
and she has to breathe, take time.
You can tell this bitch has a fucked up throat or something. Like,
or
she
can barely.
She has a damaged
Well, I think they're giving
voice
the
box.
impression she can barely speak because it seems none of the other ones can speak.
Yeah,
So
they all
clearly
communicate in, like, growls.
She's probably, like, the only one who can speak.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And you kind of get the impression that, like, oh, she's in charge.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, she's definitely leading.
And it's like, oh,
definitely
because she has
leading.
the voice. Because she can speak.
Oh, she's the voice.
Oh, she is the voice.
She is the voice.
I would press the button for her. Spin it around. Brr. You're going to Hollywood, my friend.
This is also a good time to talk about how it's like,
While you watched season 16 of Drag Race, I had to watch season 14. Nobody ever went home. Can you imagine what that must have been like?
No, I don't.
A top 5? That's just ridiculous. While you had Sasha Colby at your pride, I had Eureka.
She smelled
So
like
bad.
shit.
While you saw Kathy Griffin stand up, I saw Amy Schumer's.
then Gabe, like, adjusts his glasses, and then his tethered, like, kind of instinctively, like, goes and touch, even though he's not wearing glasses, he kind of, like, it's like a tick, almost. So you get this kind of feeling that, like, the tethered are kind of controlled in a way, or they have to mimic the actions of...
They're a mirror.
They're a mirror, exactly. So he says, "Who are you people?" And Red says,
We are Americans.
which that's like Jordan Peele, like, being very deliberate about the theme of this movie.
Yeah.
And we'll discuss that later. She gives Addie handcuffs and she says,
Tether yourself to the table.
and those handcuffs also come into play later.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, later.
Exactly.
And also, great film to rewatch.
Yeah, this is so good on a rewatch. Yeah, 100%. Addie agrees to handcuff herself, but she says, "Please don't hurt my children." So she does. She handcuffs herself to the table, and Red instructs Abraham, Gabe's doppelganger, to attack him. First, I like that he snatches Gabe's glasses off and puts them on himself. And it's probably the first time he's actually ever been able to see properly, too.
Yeah.
He's really
He's kind of like, you know when you go to you get new contacts for the first time in a while? And, like,
you put him in and you're like...
you're like Bella from Twilight when she wakes up as a vampire, and she can, like, zoom in on, like, the dirt on the paper on the book.
Yeah.
And then the tethered grabs Gabe and drags him out the house, and everyone's, like, freaking out.
Yeah.
Then Zora's tethered steps forward, and Red goes,
Little girl, run.
and so she's like, fuck.
That's what she does.
So she starts running, and Zora's tethered actually gives her a head start.
Big head start. She's stretching.
She gives a little stretch, and she gives a creepy little smile, and then she starts.
She kind of sets herself up like a track runner.
Yeah.
Like getting ready to wait for the gunshot. It's kind of funny. Like
yeah.
And then she just goes.
Barrels, And then Pluto gets up in front of Jason, and Addie is like, no, you cannot take Jason. And
Zora, fine. Jason, that's where I draw the line.
And Red says,
be careful. He has a temper.
And so Addie decides to let Jason go,
and she says,
she's gonna be okay.
It's gonna
be okay.
You're gonna be okay.
She says, show him one of your
tricks. Mm-hmm. And Red goes,
go on, boys, play. Don't burn the house down. And she goes,
I love her laugh. So Pluto takes Jason to the closet, where Jason always liked to hide and scare Zora. And he has a lighter thing. It actually works.
Yeah.
Then he takes off his mask, and we see that underneath the mask, Pluto has all burns all over his face.
So we can assume
that because Jason's always looking down with the thing really close to his face, trying to get the lighter trick to work, that underneath,
Pluto's it was working, and so he just had to sit there and burn himself over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And so he does the smart thing, and he's like, let's pull these back down. And we see that Pluto, because the older ones, they'll kind of do the same thing as the tether, but not always. Mm-hmm. But Pluto is much more whatever Jason does, Pluto does. And I think that has to do with because he's younger, he wasn't able to break away from that, I guess.
Yeah, maybe,
We'll get into it more when we get into the film.
The actual, kind of mythology of the tethered, they kind of do that, wax on, wax off, where they're mirroring each other's hand motions. Yeah. We cut away to Zora. She thinks she's gotten away from her tethered, but then her tethered jumps out.
In front of her.
And so they're kind of juking around this car.
Yeah.
And then in a really creepy scene, a really creepy moment, Zora's tethered just goes boop and goes down and hides underneath the car.
I was terrified.
It's
Zora looks down, where at that moment I'm that's when you run.
Yeah.
But Zora looks underneath the car,
under the car.
There's no one there. Umbrella's is not there. Bitch is on top of the car.
On top of the car.
And then some dude comes out. He's like,
hey,
get off my car.
Get off my car. Come here.
I'm gonna call cops.
Yeah. And so Zora's tethered goes up to him, and it gives Zora a moment to start running away.
She sprints out, and then we hear the guy getting stabbed.
Getting stabbed with the scissors. Yeah. It's really funny because he was like, wait, what are you doing? Whoa! And back inside, Addie asks Red, what do you want?
And she goes, what do we want? We want to take our time. We've been waiting for this day for so long. I call it the untethering.
And that's where she fucked up. Villains who take their time never succeed.
Yeah.
It's the classic.
Well, you had her. You could have just been okay, let's get this over with. Stab.
Classic
Okay,
evil
let's go home.
monologue. Yes. That reminds me of Austin Powers. Yeah. When he's like,
if you have a time machine, why not just go back and kill Austin Powers when he's sitting on the crapper or something?
How about no, Scott?
You just don't get it, Scott.
Scott, I have to do an evil monologue.
You just don't get it.
She grabs Addie's neck and starts pushing her head into the glass table.
And forcefully, I might add.
That glass is about to shatter.
Breaking the glass. It's a really cool shot because you see Addie in the foreground and then the reflection of red from the table is in the background.
Yeah, it's a really cool shot.
Really well done shot. Meanwhile, Gabe has been knocked out. He's wrapped up in a plastic bag, and he uses his hands to kind of like poke hole through where you can see where he's at. He's on the boat while his tethered
Abraham
is driving around the boat or like somewhere out on the lake. And so Gabe starts to get up out of the bag while the tethered is distracted because that motor stops again. So he starts going over.
He's doing it like at a same motion to like try and get it started. So
yeah.
What I liked about it, you could tell him listening of like, okay, when he does it now, I can like rip open the bag and he won't hear me.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Like I thought that was a nice little like just like detail.
Very well timed because there's a baseball bat there that Gabe grabs and he uses it to knock his tethered off the boat right as the boat starts up. And
also the life ring and the like rope to it get knocked off into the water as well.
Yeah.
And his tethered gets his like leg tangled
to it. So he's being like dragged around by the boat.
And then as the boat starts up, Gabe falls into the water.
Yeah, he falls in. And
he's just about to get grabbed by his tethered, but the boat pulls
the tethered away.
It's a really good like, and Gabe doesn't even notice. He's just like, huh? What's going on?
I love Gabe. So Jason is in the closet and he tricks his tethered by like, he finally gets that thing to spark and it kind of like jump scares his tethered.
Yeah.
And in that moment, Jason like pushes him and distracts him and gets out and locks him in that closet because the swinging door, as we established earlier,
so smart,
locks in on itself. And we hear Pluto crying, and Addie tells Red, she's like, that's your kid, you need to go get him, kind of. And so Red's like shitty and she's like, I'll be right back or whatever, and she starts like doing her creepy walk in to go and rescue Pluto from the closet. Addie like kind of reaches out and she just barely is able to get a hold of the fire poker.
How heavy is that fucking table?
I know, that table must have been a ton, right? I thought that too.
Girl, you can't move it a little bit.
Can't just move the table? I totally thought that too. That's really funny. But yeah, she's able to get a hold of this fire poker. And she uses it to break herself off of the table. Meanwhile, Gabe is swimming in the lake and he hears the engine of the boat and he turns around and he realizes because that boat hangs to the left.
It went in a big circle.
It went in a big circle and is coming back towards him. So yeah, his tethered shows up then near him and they start having a showdown and they're trying to get up on the boat and his tethered's trying to get him. But he like headbutts the engine of the boat to get it to turn back on, and then it shreds his tether up in the propellers.
Yeah,
and a
very scary.
Bloody mess. Yeah. And Addie finds Jason, and they narrowly escape away from their tethers.
And then they meet up with Zora, because she had run back after escaping her tethered, and they see Gabe with the boat, and they run onto the boat, and just Red and Pluto come down to the dock and just watch them as they get away.
And Pluto is like doing that creepy crawl too.
Yeah.
Gabe is like, oh hell no, we need to get out like the moment he sees Pluto. And I agree, like Pluto's the one that scares me the most. He's a little freak. Like
he's freaky.
Yeah. So they're able to get away. Red watches on angrily. And we see Zora's tethered like run really fast in the back towards them. So now we are at
the Tyler's house.
Yeah, their friend's house, Elizabeth Moss.
And it is a modern, swanky, like big glass house where you can see in the entire place.
It's the Collins house from Twilight.
Which I'm like, I don't like houses like that because you can't fuck in houses like that.
I know. I don't like that either. I wouldn't.
I don't like people. You don't need to see.
You need to see everything I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like sometimes that even
like rich people just love showing off.
In our little house, sometimes I'm like, we have too many windows.
Right.
But
why
see,
do we have 5 in one room?
We're up high, which I like, and I like having the windows. But we can cover our windows. They don't have their windows covered. And
They
that
don't have-
bothers me.
Just open.
It bothers me. And the wife pokes her head out of the balcony, and the husband is like chilling in his recliner
Just
with like a
drinking.
bottle of scotch.
And she's like, there's someone outside.
Yeah, I heard like weird noises outside. I'm pretty sure I heard the backup generator kick on. Did you hear that? And he's like, no, whatever. And she's like, well, can you just go check on it for me? And he's like, but I'm comfy. I don't want to leave my comfy
busy.
spot. And I think it's funny that he says, I don't want to leave my comfy spot. I think that line of dialogue ties into the theme of people with privilege not wanting to leave their comfy spot, you know.
Yeah. Not want to be bothered.
Yeah. And he is like, okay, fine. Ophelia, lights on. They have like an Alexa, but they call it Ophelia. And he's looking out and he goes, oh my God, there is somebody out there. And she's like, really? He's like, yeah, right there.
behind the car. Did you
Really?
see that?
Really? Where? Oh, it's OJ.
Which,
It's OJ Simpson.
It's kind of funny because, like, he's dead now.
Yeah.
Went out with cancer. Oh my God, I was thinking about that when we watched this because, like, he died of cancer, but, like, a few weeks before he, like, died, he, like, posted on, like, his Twitter. He's like, I'm in good health. I'm, like, doing great. And people are like, you know what? Kind of camp of him to go out always lying.
He was consistent.
He was consistent. At least he was, say what you want. He was consistent.
He was consistent.
He never gave up the bet.
He never gave up the bullshit. The twins then come out on the balcony and they're like, what's going on? And then suddenly...
No, I love this because then they're like, the mom's like, nothing. Like, we just thought there was someone outside. It's fine. Just, like, go back to bed. And they're like, just because we're in our room doesn't mean we're sleeping. She's like, okay, fine. Go back to your rooms then. She, like, gets
She
like,
is.
she's like, gets shitty with that.
Like, hey, whatever.
She, like, doesn't give a fuck. And then
go to your
and
room.
then a girl, one of the twins, doppelgangers, walks out, and the dad just goes, hello? And then it just cuts out to the outside of the house, and we just see all of them.
Immediately,
Murder.
within like the span of like 10 seconds,
Which I'm like,
they're all
that's
killed by
where
their tethers.
I'm like, again,
Yeah, I'm like,
that's where
they
his
did
red
it
fucks
right.
up.
Yeah.
They
His
did
y'all
it.
took too long.
They did it right.
This-
It was done. It was over. There's no worrying about it. We can go do what we need to do. I got to run to the grocery store. It's all working out.
But to be fair, they can't evilly monologue because they don't talk.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. You're right. But just because you have it doesn't mean you have to flaunt it.
Fair enough.
Red.
Fair enough.
You can keep that concise.
She literally could have just been like, she could have just come in,
She could
grabbed
have also.
her by the head, and be like, gotcha, bitch. And then
She
you
could have
stabbed
also
her.
just edited it.
She could have been like,
Surprise, bitch, but you thought you'd seen the last of me.
It didn't need to be 10 minutes. It could have been a tight 3, you know? Just edit.
Cut it down.
Yeah.
Cut it down.
Cut it down.
Edit.
bro.
I'm going to say one word for you.
Edit.
We then cut to Elizabeth Moss. She's actually still alive. And
Yeah,
she's
barely
still
hanging
alive,
crawling.
but I'm barely
breathing.
But, like, period. Epitome of that song.
She's crawling towards Josh.
Josh is tethered. He holds out his hand.
Oh
like he's
yeah,
gonna
well then
help
he
her.
comes out.
But then he does the fake out
Like the fake out like fixes his hair. He's funny.
Yeah.
He's a diva. He's a diva.
Yeah.
His feather's so funny.
Because like his tethered was so like douchey and trolly. It would only make sense that like the tethered would also be douchey and trolly.
And then she says, Ophelia, call the police. And then,
Okay, now playing Fuck the Police.
By
Fuck the
NWA.
Police coming out from the underground. And that song plays for like the next like 5 minutes.
Never gets shut off.
We get the whole full track basically.
It's so good.
It's so funny. They
then she
they
died.
kill off Elizabeth Moss, and then Addie and her family immediately show up knocking on the front door for help. Josh's double answers the door, and she immediately knows, okay, he's a tethered, so she bops him in the head with the poker.
and he's still alive.
Yeah.
And this part's really
Right-
funny
right
because
there,
the family
it's
like gets out and then the rest of the family, the doppelgangers, like grab her.
Just
and
grab
the way
her
they
back.
grab her, it looks like a fucking Disney Channel. like,
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
It was so funny.
It was really funny. It reminded me of like something from the Scary Movie franchise. That would
Yeah, it's
happen.
just like such like a like it didn't look real. It was such a like
but in a good way, in like
Yes.
a really funny way. So yeah, Josh, his tethered comes out and wants to have a showdown with Gabe.
Gabe's tired.
Gabe has got a fucked up leg.
He just killed his tether.
Yeah, just killed his tethered. So Zora and Jason go inside to save their mom.
And they find, like, Zora finds, like, a golf club.
Yeah.
A putter.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jason finds, like, a little, like, amethyst statue.
Yeah.
Like, really fucking heavy, but it's big enough for him to, like, carry.
It's a rock. Yeah. Big old rock.
And
fancy rock.
Mm-hmm.
They go upstairs because they, like, hear their mom, Addie, screaming upstairs.
This is a very tense scene. They're very slowly.
Very tense.
And then they get upstairs.
Because they're just little kids, dude. Like, it's scary. Yeah.
And one of the twins then cartwheels out, and Zora doesn't even hesitate, swings the club way into her head, and she falls over the balcony and just...
She lands on the glass table below, so we presume she's dead.
She's dead.
Also, the way that the real twins' bodies are arranged are just like the twins from The Shining in the hallway when you see their bodies like splayed out.
Oh, that's cool.
And Jordan Peele loves Stanley Kubrick. He loves The Shining. So there's always little Shining Easter eggs. There were a couple last week in our Get Out episode that we noticed.
Yeah.
So they continue further into the hallway. And another twin, like, cartwheels out from behind them. And she has a showdown with Zora. And Zora, luckily, overpowers her.
Knocks her into the bathroom. And she does the smartest thing that not enough people do in a horror movie. When you got them down, you beat that fucker down.
You just beat them down.
She just keeps smacking her with that golf club until that bitch is dead.
Yeah. They're both kind of like... Damn, like sitting there, like we just had to fucking do that.
Like after she like did it, like the brother was like, "Well, let me look and see what you did too, so you're not the only one traumatized."
Yeah,
it's kind of like I won't let you go alone. Go through this alone.
We get this kind of camp scene. I love it of Elizabeth Moss's double
finally getting to use actual lipstick. Because imagine her character was always
probably did that all
like,
the time because that woman was so vain. So just sit in a mirror. She had sat in that spot 400 times. You know what I mean?
And she had imagine the work she had gotten done because...
Oh, it would have been some fucked up shit. Just kind of cutting her up. Because the first she's like putting on the makeup and she's like mimicking, like, she's kind of serving cunt in the mirror a little bit. And then she goes over to like threaten Addie with the scissors and she's got, holding it up to her neck. But then she kind of has to like stop herself. Yeah. And like she kind of like pulls herself away because I think we can gather Red has to be the one to kill Addie. So she's kind of holding her, keeping her safe for Red to come and kill her. Then she goes over and she starts giving herself plastic surgery. This was crazy. She starts like kind of cutting her cheek, and it's kind of her way of like Botox, basically.
It's crazy. I didn't get it at first, and then I was like, "Oh my god, she's like giving herself a facelift, Botox." Like,
because Kitty was obsessed with getting work done. Yeah, and her looks. So, but then Gabe lures Josh's double out to his yacht, which it's called the Biatch, which I thought was really funny. And he activates this flare gun, which is funny because Josh had been giving Gabe shit
about the flare gun. He said, "Oh, did you get the flare gun?"
I remember the flare gun this time, motherfucker. And he like shoots him with the flare gun and distracts him, and then is able to like get the upper hand.
I bet that felt good for Gabe.
Oh, 100%. I'm sure it was cathartic. Yeah. So they're having a showdown, and Elizabeth Moss's double is like watching out the window, and she's like crying at first, and then she starts like kind of like laughing to herself.
Like, it's crazy because you think it's like you're outside, so you can't hear her, but it's like, no, you're inside. She's just not making any noise. She's just doing the face. So it's really creepy. Because then there's a point where she kind of like makes a little bit of a noise. Like when she starts laughing, she kind of does like a little...
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, we can hear her. She's just doing this creepy face.
She's just a creepy bitch.
Yeah. It was a really weird sequence of events.
Mm-hmm. And Zora appears and tries to attack Elizabeth Moss's double.
She sees her in the window's reflection.
And is able to get the upper hand at first. And she's about to stab Zora. And so Lupita is like, no, freaking out. Luckily, Jason comes in and he bashes the doppelganger in the head
amethyst.
With the statuette. Yeah, the amethyst. Yeah. Which, something I thought of, that's a rock statuette. And she was trying to kill Zora with scissors. rock beats scissors. And we also saw like some people playing rock paper scissors at the beach in the first scene.
Yeah, when she was walking by.
So I think he was definitely playing with the whole rock beat scissors thing throughout the movie.
I couldn't have thought of that in 1,000 years. You're a genius. You're in the year 3000.
Thank you, Keaton. I just watch a lot of movies. It's actually sad. So we see Gabe won the fight against Josh's tethered and killed Josh's tethered. So they all reunite downstairs and they sit and they process what has happened. They try calling the police, but all of the operators are busy. Apparently some crazy shit's going down. So then Jason is like, well, I wonder if everybody has a double. So they're like, oh, maybe that's what's going down. They turn on the news. And this is when we learn that this is like a widespread thing.
Yeah.
Everywhere, doubles are coming up and killing off their twins.
Yeah.
And then they'll go and they stand in the line and hold hands with each other. And that's what that guy, so we can put together that the guy on the beach earlier was the tethered
to the homeless guy.
The homeless guy, the Jeremiah 11:11 guy.
And he was standing in his spot.
He's like the
he
first
was the
one.
first tethered of the tethered uprising or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're all coming to the surface. Well, we don't know if they're coming from the underground yet, but that's what it is. They're all coming up to untether themselves and then participate in this weird performance art kind of piece.
Yeah.
And it's creepy because like even the like reporter who's getting footage, like we see his tethered comes up and like it's like a found footage-y kind of moment.
Yeah.
It's scary. So Addie says, we need to get the fuck out. Because Gabe is like, well, we'll just stay here. We'll be fine. And she's like, no, you don't understand. Like, these people think like us. And they're gonna know where we're hiding. They're gonna, you know that they're gonna come find us here at our friend's house. Hello. And he
Which
says...
she says that as if it's a logical statement. And it kind of is a clue to something else. Because it's like... Girl, I get where you're coming from, but no logical person would piece all of that together.
Would jump to that conclusion.
Because I can make the argument that, they're kind of like us. They look like us, so they're kind of like us. I don't know if I would be so bold to say they think like us, they act like us, they do the same things as us.
Exactly.
I'm like, girl, you gave yourself away a little bit right there.
Well, she does that a bit. Yeah, especially here coming up soon. Well, at first, Gabe is like, well, can't we just put on some Home Alone traps? And she's like, are you really going to quote Home Alone to me right now? Like, no.
Yeah.
Let's get the fuck out. And
Zora says, what's Home Alone?
I know. And I'm like, Zora, girl, you have Disney Plus. No
you
excuse,
have it.
Gen Z. But then Gabe is like, well, can't we just stay here again? And then this is when Addie freaks out on him. And she says, you can't make decisions anymore. Like, I'm the captain. I am the motherfucking one in charge. Period.
Point blank.
Your leg's broken, so...
Yeah. So they decide to escape. They are like, oh, we'll just use our friend's car.
Because they're not going to be using it anytime soon.
No, they're not, certainly. So they realize that they don't have the keys. They start, like, leaving, and then they're like, oh, the keys. And she's like, fuck. So Addie goes back inside get the keys, and
the twin that was knocked over the balcony, she's not where
in the glass table or whatever.
Yeah. She ain't there anymore.
So Addie's like, okay. She makes a dart for the keys, and then she like follows her instinct. She grabs a pot because she knows that twin is gonna jump out at one point.
Yeah.
And right in the nick of time, she gets a handle of that pot, and she turns around, and that tether jumps out and goes, lets out like this crazy banshee shriek. But she, like, 2 seconds after that, just like bashes the tether in the head. She then proceeds to like beat the tether to death. And as she's beating on it, she begins to like grunt. And she kind of has that like tethery, animalistic, primal noises.
She takes the scissors.
She takes it with the scissors. And Jason, we realize, like, has watched this whole like showdown.
Yeah.
And watched his mom like
beat her to death.
Get to that point.
Yeah.
and is like, damn. But yeah, it's the first like kind of like moment where Jason, like, he's maybe theorizing. They get out to the car. They have the keys.
I love this moment.
Zora is like, well, I'm just going to drive.
She's in the driver's seat. And she's like, no. She's like, I have the highest kill count. He's like, no, you don't. She's like, yes, I do. I got both the twins. She's like, no, I just got the other twin.
And she's also like, well, you're handcuffed and Dad has like a bum foot now. So like,
it's safest if I drive.
So she has a point. And
like,
then
she makes a good point.
Yeah.
And then she makes a good argument.
Zora's doppelganger shows up.
And they're like, shit. And she's like,
okay, fine. Then if you're going to drive, then you got to drive. Yeah. So Zora has this like showdown with her twin where she like tries to run her over. And then
she like jumps on the roof, onto the hood, and like then like is stabbing the window with the scissors, able to hold on.
And so she steps on the brake really hard and sends her doppelganger flying into the woods. And you hear her like smash against a tree. So we can assume she's dead, but just to be sure, Addie goes out and like checks, and we see her body's all like mangled up and she's like hanging upside down from a tree.
Yeah.
And there's this moment of...
She kind of is very sympathetic. Yeah. And I think it's kind of we'll get into it, but it looks just like her daughter. And I think it kind of hit her. And so she kind of is shushing her like, it's okay.
It's okay.
Like it's gonna be over soon. Like,
and then the doppelganger starts like kind of like doing that creepy laugh to herself, and she kind of like laughs herself to death. Yeah. So they drive all through the night, and as they're trying to leave Santa Cruz in the morning, they see all these bodies everywhere, and it's like a ghost town,
and it's just carnage.
They see their car blocking the road. It has been lit on fire. And Pluto pops out with his nasty ass.
He was like holding underneath the car.
And he's like standing there all creepy. And Addie goes out to like get him. She has her poker. She's going to go get him.
Yeah.
And as she approaches Pluto, Jason realizes, because Pluto thinks like him, so he's like, oh, this is a trap. Yeah. Because if I were Pluto right now, I would set a trap like this. So like he's like, we gotta get out. This is a trap.
And Pluto kind of makes a face too, like, because he's appealing to her. There's a moment where you think that Addie is gonna try to save or rescue Pluto. There's a moment of this like vulnerability of like, that's my son.
She holds her hand out to him.
And holds his hand out. And then in that moment, he peeks his head around and looks Jason right in the eye. And Jason's like, oh my
shit.
God.
Yeah.
We gotta get the fuck out of here.
We gotta get out of this car.
Trap.
And thank God he
and
had
he's
that.
Snapping. The Pluto's snapping the whole time, which is reminiscent of just the day before
when she was telling him to get in rhythm. Here, yeah. And luckily, he was right. We see there has been a line of gasoline that trails all the way up underneath the car, and Pluto is holding a match. So he was gonna blow the car up. So then Jason gets the idea, because he is remembering that like everything he does, Pluto kind of has to do and like mimic. So he holds his hands up, almost like in a crucifix like pose.
Yeah.
And he walks backwards so that Pluto will walk backwards into the flame. And Addie is like, no. Like she doesn't want to see Pluto die, and he gets like burned to death. But in this moment, which is this unnerved the shit out of me. The camera is out of focus, and Red is like camouflaged into their like red car, and she like slowly like uncurls herself and stands up straight. She was back there hiding, and she snatches up Jason and runs, and it's so scary. Red freaks me out, dude.
Yeah, no, like I at one point it's about to come up the big showdown. But like there are so many points where I'm staring at her and I can't even look at her.
I'm like, ooh, don't make that face.
Like,
oh, don't make that face. Ooh.
Like I can't look at her because I'm just like, you are so scary to look at.
So Addie knows what she has to do. She knows that she has to go to Vision Quest in order to find Red. She sees the line of tethereds all holding hands along the beach. And it's like thousands of people. And it looks like Hands Across America, the way it's like the people lined up holding hands. And there's even people like dipped into like the water, and they're standing like where the water is at like shoulder length. Yeah. Like continue, like they're actually doing it, like forming the whole chain of people.
It's great. Like, it's like exactly how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. And she goes into the Hall of Mirrors. And I love that owl animatronic that scared her when I was a kid jumps out, and she just like clubs it with her poker.
Oh, she got her lick back on that.
Yeah.
She's been waiting a long time to do that.
That was great. She goes into the House of Mirrors, and there is a white rabbit painted on this like weird like back door. And for some reason, she knows exactly where to go. She goes into that door, and a rabbit pops out from behind her. And she goes down, and we see as she makes her way, it's this whole sequence of her going into this system of stairs and rooms, and she goes down this big, long elevator, and it's like she has been here before because she knows exactly where to go. And it's also tense because she's holding her poker and she's looking behind every corner, making sure that Red's not going to jump out. So you're like, oh God, where's Red, right?
Yeah.
But she continues down this system of stairs and rooms until we are in this weird, creepy, vast hallway where there are hundreds of bunny rabbits just like walking around everywhere, hopping around. And she encounters Red in a classroom. It is the classroom from the opening credits. Red is facing the chalkboard, which there's been stick figures drawn on it to resemble Hands Across America. Red gives another monologue.
How it must have been to grow up with the sky, to feel the sun, the wind, the trees, but your people took it for granted. We're human too, you know. Eyes, teeth, hands, blood, exactly like you. And yet, it was humans that built this place. I believe they figured out how to make a copy of the body, but not the soul. The soul remains one, shared by two. Oh, there's fireworks going off. That was creepy.
Yeah.
They created the tethered so they could use them to control the ones above, like puppets. But they failed, and they abandoned the tethered. 4 generations, the tethered continued without direction. They all went mad down here. And then there was us. Remember, we were born special.
And first of all, she said they all went mad down here. That just reminds me of Alice in Wonderland.
Well, yeah.
They all go mad down here.
Very down the rabbit hole.
And there's rabbits, so she's literally down the rabbit hole. Anyway, yeah. We see everything that happens above happens down below in the underground.
But not exactly. That's the thing, it's very jerky, it's very shaky, it's not muscle for muscle. It's like it almost looks like they're trying to fight it every step of the way. As they're walking, they're trying to jerk away from the motion, but they
copying
can't
their people.
help
Yeah.
it.
And we get that moment of young Addie when she was wandering around the beach and at the carnival. And we see all the people on the roller coasters on the above ground, like actually riding roller coasters. And this was kind of funny.
Yeah.
The people below have to like pretend to ride roller coasters.
Yeah.
And like
they're like in a
in
closet.
This weird closet.
Just like
shaking around, pretending like they're riding a roller coaster, which God, being a tethered would be so fucking miserable and like sad. And also they have to literally eat raw rabbits. Like we see people at the food court up above eating like nachos, and then like below they have to eat these like bloody bunny rabbits. Nasty. And I think the reason why it's rabbits is because IRL rabbits were like the first species to actually be cloned, like in real life. So I think this is like tying to that of like, the cloning of it all. Yeah.
Oh, see, and I was also thinking like, rabbits are a logical choice because they reproduce so fast that they would be a good source of food because it would be a quick turnaround. They can have so many.
Well, I think there's a lot. I think the rabbits have a lot of symbolism because it's also Alice in Wonderland, and then also there's so many fireworks going off. Yeah. I also think it has to do with like animal testing. Because,
privilege,
which is a privilege of we have all these products that we're able to use, but like we had to test them on animals, and rabbits are commonly.
It's always bunnies.
It's commonly rabbits are and not just cosmetics, even like medicines, like advancements in medicine. It's been through rabbits, and so
Jordan Peele also said that the rabbits are symbolic of Easter, and we'll talk about. The fact that there is Easter vibes, and like we'll get into it here.
Okay.
We'll get into it.
Yeah, I'm very curious.
We see Child Addie making her way to Vision Quest, while Child Red is downstairs making her way up the elevator and into
escalator
Vision Quest as well. Was it an escalator? Sorry.
It was an escalator.
Did I say elevator earlier?
Yeah.
You said that and I was like, oh.
And I was going to let that one go. You got one freebie, but after that I have to stop you.
I meant escalator.
You said that and I was like, I must have looked away that scene. I don't remember her going to the elevator.
No, that was
escalator. I was
slip of the tongue.
Confused.
So she's going up to the Hall of Mirrors, and they both encounter each other. We get that scene from the beginning of Addie bumping into her doppelganger, turning around and being terrified. Her doppelganger turns around, gives a big creepy smile. Red says,
I never stopped thinking about you. How things could have been. How you could have taken me with you. Years after we met, I found God. I found my true calling, and the tethered could see that I was different, and they knew I could lead them out of this misery. It took years to prepare.
And that's the Easter. She's
their Messiah.
Leading the people.
That makes sense.
Out of misery. We see that Addie, back when she was a dancer, was in a production of The Nutcracker where she played a sugar plum fairy, which is a pas de deux. And a pas de deux is a dance that is performed by two people. It's like a duet. But for some reason, she's performing it solo. Which doesn't... if you know The Nutcracker, that's weird, right? But then we also see down below, underground, we see her tethered is dancing in front of all the other tethers.
Yeah.
So it is a pas de deux. It is a duet because it's two people dancing together.
But in a non-traditional way.
Exactly. And Red tells Addie, she says,
and to think, without you, I never would have danced at all.
Red tells Addie that she realized that she was able to do her own choreography. She realized that she was able to break away from the control of the above people. And the tethered saw that, and it inspired them. And so she became in charge of this whole uprising.
And they were able to break, which is why I think, again, Pluto wasn't able to break it because he was so young. He wasn't able to...
It wasn't as strong.
He wasn't as strong, so he was still being controlled too much by Jason.
So this was all organized by Red. She had everyone dress up in these jumpsuits with the glove because she was wearing that Thriller t-shirt.
Yeah.
And that was her last, piece of outside culture. So that's what inspired her. Also, the Thriller... whole video and vibe is about zombies. It's spooky, it's creepy, it's kind of menacing.
Well, and they were wearing the right suits because
that's what Michael's wearing.
But also when they all stand together,
it looks like
Hands Across America. So that's also when we see. So speaking of Hands Across America, she was wearing her Thriller t-shirt on top of her original t-shirt, which is a white shirt that is a Hands Across America t-shirt.
Yes.
It has the little red stick figures on it. and she has it hanging up like as a kind of a shrine underground. And it was kind of her way of like showing them what they need to do when they get out to the outside.
Yeah.
So so that was her idea. We're going to take over, we're going to kill all of our tethereds, and then we're going to stand together and do Hands Across America.
Because we can't, it's not enough just to kill you. We got to make a statement.
Have to make a statement. Absolutely. So then we get this iconic scene, and it plays the spooky I Got Five on it. Iconic soundtrack.
Just the like,
and
just the instrumental.
The moment that like the beat kind of drops on it, Red starts moving and she moves backwards towards Addie. It's so scary. Like,
and she's like dancing basically.
It is a dance showdown, and that sounds corny, but it's so like thrilling when you watch the movie.
Oh yeah, it was. Mesmerizing.
They move like they're dancing because they're predicting each other's moves and they
Yeah.
think alike. And like Red already kind of moves like dancerly. She's got that weird stiff way of walking where it's almost like a duck. Like she's very like her legs walk really fast,
But her upper body is
stays still and very commanding. And she gets a few jabs. They kind of like show down all throughout the long hallway. And she kind of cuts Addie at some point. Addie is able to maybe get like just a couple hits on the poker. And it's interlaced with the moment of them both dancing in the Nutcracker.
Yeah.
So it's like literally a dance as they have this big showdown. And again, this music is so iconic. This is what makes the scene. It just matches so well in the way it's edited. And I learned that this music wasn't even going to be used, but it was made for the trailer, and everyone was so had such a visceral reaction to the music in the trailer
that
that Jordan Peele was like, let's just use this music for the showdown because it's perfect.
Oh my god!
Yeah. So, and I'm so glad because this music, it's perfect. It's so scary. And finally, at that last, the violin where it's like the swelling of the music, Red finally goes after and jump scares behind Addie. They're in this room with bunk beds and has her knife, and she's finally gonna kill her and stab her. But Addie is able to predict her move, and she impales Red in the stomach with the poker. Red's standing there, and she's starting to die, and she's holding on to her. And she starts whistling the Itsy Bitsy Spider in anguish. And Addie uses her handcuffs. She wraps them around her head and she chokes Red to death. And she really tethers out. Addie is doing that same grunting she was doing earlier when she killed the twin. But now she's just fully in tethered mode.
Yeah.
We realize that Jason is hiding in a locker. And he's watching through the cracks, and he's seen this whole showdown. So he again watches as his mother has descended into madness.
He's seeing it.
And she sees him in there, and she's like, Jason, oh my God, my baby. And she gets him out, and she's like, oh, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be like how it was before. But you can tell on Jason's face, he knows nothing will ever be the same. Because there has been so much carnage and so much trauma.
Chaos.
At this point. Yeah.
How do you go back?
How do you ever go back? They reunite in the above ground with Zora and Gabe, and they leave Santa Cruz in an ambulance. We see this montage as the camera pans to all four of them. Zora and Gabe are just 30-yard stare. They're exhausted. They're fucking traumatized. And we see that Jason is in the front seat as Addie's driving. And he's got his mask off. It's sitting on top of his head. And he's kind of looking over at Addie. And the camera pans to Addie and she makes eye contact with him. And this is when we get the iconic twist of the whole movie.
Yeah, we do.
We see a flashback. We see that Addie was the one who was originally from underground. She was the tether.
She was the motherfucker.
We go through this whole sequence of seeing her. We finally see the full sequence of what happens when the original Addie bumped into her
in the House of Mirrors.
In the House
her
of Mirrors.
tethered.
She
gives her that
smile
smile and then chokes her out.
Which is why she has that raspy voice.
Because she damaged her voice box.
Her dragging her through
all the way down the escalators and the stairs and the hallway
and
handcuffed her
with
to a bed
to
and
the
switching
bed.
shirts with her, taking her Thriller shirt, and then
she went up there.
She just leaves,
and
she
got
the
the
same
car.
handcuffs,
and it's the same handcuffs
that she used on her. So then we learned.
So
this
now we
whole
can
time,
put all the pieces together. Yeah, this whole time, this was really revenge.
Revenge.
Yeah, because Red was Addie, and she got her life like taken away from her, basically.
Yeah.
And she was left down there with the tethered, while Red went up there and like got to live her whole life as Addie. Yeah. So that's why
she couldn't speak.
But she's the only one who can talk. Because she has language skills, because she learned English because she's from above.
But then that's why Addie couldn't speak when she. That's why she's in therapy.
Yeah,
because she didn't know how to talk.
Yeah, it all adds up. Yeah.
Also, there's a moment when they first come into the house, she's taking in the house because she's remembering. It's like, oh, this place hasn't changed that much since I was a little girl.
Yeah,
I remember this.
She remembers the house. Yeah, there's so many things make sense, and you have to go back. We probably haven't even brushed on like most of them, but if you have to rewatch this one to like just take in all the little nuances of Lupita's performance and like
layered, mama.
It's so good, like especially knowing the fact that she was originally a tethered. All of the choices she makes as a character makes so much more sense. The fact that she's awkward, the fact that she has trouble talking to other people. It's because she was originally a tethered. Her developing years of life, she spent, underground in this weird ass place. Yeah, so many weird tie-ins that come back, and you're like, oh, that
the choices she made, the way she acted.
Yeah. When she's holding her hand out to Zora's tethered or to Jason's tethered, trying to have sympathy for them.
Tether, like she has that connection of like
they're just kids too.
Yeah, she was a tethered.
She's no better than them. She just got out.
Exactly. So,
which again goes back to the
theme. So we'll describe the very last scene, and then I want to talk about the themes.
Yeah.
So Jason is realizing what we're realizing, that his mother is a tethered. He's put it together, and they have this moment where they make eye contact with each other, and she kind of gives him this little smile, like, yeah, I'm a tethered bitch, and you know, and I know.
But it's like a repressed tethered smile, like that big grin that, like, especially Zora's tethered
has,
like, she does a little bit and then puts it back. She's like, lock that back away. And it's a very interesting decision that he makes. He just puts his mask on and goes about his day, and it's very like, I'm not telling anybody nothing. Yeah, your secret's safe with me.
Your secret's safe with me. But it also makes sense that he would find out because he's now seen her go full tethered mode on
twice.
2 different people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, he can put 2 and 2 together. A lot of people did. You guys did.
Yeah.
The first time you watched the movie.
I figured it out before we even saw her as an adult.
I did not
Before
see
we even saw her as an adult, I was like, I looked over at you and I go, they switched.
And I was like, no, they didn't. Trying to, like, convince you, like, so you wouldn't be, like, spoiled or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm such a bad liar, too, but... Yeah, this twist blew my fucking mind. But I still think, like, even without the novelty of not knowing the twist, it's still, like, a really good watch.
Oh! Like, if you somehow got it spoiled for you, like, knowing it after I told Stevie, like, you have a whole new lens to watch. There's a lens of, I'm watching it not knowing the twist, and then there's a whole nother analysis you can do once you know the twist.
I think it's more fun on a rewatch.
It is. And that's how all of his movies are. He's so good at that, you guys. So he puts the mask on. He says, I'm not going to tell anybody. Like, your secret's safe with me. They drive into the sunset where we see there is a chain of tethered people spanning across miles and miles.
Over the mountains.
Over the mountains. We see, like,
and Minnie Riperton starts playing.
Minnie Riperton. It's a great song, too.
It's a great song.
It's such a good vibe to end the movie on. And we see, the, like, helicopters in the distance and... Like you said, Keaton, earlier, like, where do we go from here?
Where do we go? What the heck do you... See, if every single person has a tethered, that's 7 billion people. Now there's 7 billion people.
No, I think it's only in America.
Oh, yeah.
That's still... I'm going to say ridiculous.
Because
700 million, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely American.
Cloning.
Yeah. It's definitely American.
It's still
right.
700 million people. What do you do with 700 million new people? Where do you go from here?
And
that's terrifying.
And the tether didn't have a plan either. I mean, half of them are probably going to drown in the water holding their hands.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It was like, they're probably just going to like start killing people. And I was like, no, I think I'm like, because they said like how they went with no direction. Well, Red's gone, so they're not going to. She probably never told them what to do after they made the chain.
They're just going to,
And she honestly, because again, when you think about it, Red is a big 7-year-old. Yeah. That's all she is.
That's all she
is. Because there's no education down there. There's no whatever. And I bet she didn't have it. Because in her mind,
she just had her Hands Across America t-shirt and a dream.
In her mind, she watched that ad for Hands Across America where they're saying, oh, it's going to solve all these problems. So as a 7-year-old, she's thinking, I'm going to solve my problems by holding hands with a stranger across America.
See, that's why, like, knowing that it was a failure, it kind of shows that, like, Red's plan was always going to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so let's get into the theme.
Yeah, let's get into the themes.
Now that we've talked about the whole twist and everything, we can really break it down. So this movie's about homelessness. It's about the disenfranchised, the downtrodden. It's about the fact that in order for you to be set in life and to
it's at the sacrifice of someone else.
It's at the sacrifice of somebody else. So as long as there's people who are thriving, there's going to be people who are just trying to survive. And the tethered represent the disenfranchised. And so at the end of the day, you really relate to the tethered because you're like, well, fuck. Like, that would suck. And I would want to fucking uprise too.
That's why this film's so nuanced, because it's like the original Addie is the victim in all this, because it's like she just wandered in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And was taken from her life.
Yeah.
Without any warning.
Yeah.
But then you can't feel bad for Red, or or what I mean is,
you can't be upset with Red. You
can't be upset with Red for wanting a better life than what she was born into.
Exactly.
Like, you don't, like, the tether didn't choose that life.
No.
Nobody would have. And so, like, that's where it kind of,
you empathize with the tether, 100%.
You empathize with the tether, but you also empathize with Addie, and it's so, like...
There's a duality to it.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's very interesting that at the end of the day, the real villains weren't the tethered. It was, like, the government who abandoned the tethered and made this weird-ass experiment, right?
And screwed over
everybody, right? And so I think that... And what happens in this movie is that you have, like, the tethered going after the people above them when they really should be going after, like, the government, right? So it's kind of saying, like, if we sit and tear each other apart, that's just what the government wants us to do. These outside forces and these higher up powers that try to control us. And I think that he's trying to make a statement in that regard that we need to be addressing, instead of each other and being scared of, like, the disenfranchised or whatever and trying to vilify them, we need to address the systemic issues that cause the disenfranchised.
Well, and it also goes to show that just because you're not the tethered does not mean you're living a good life. Because the homeless tethered killed the homeless man, who is also a victim of disenfranchisement, also a victim of government oversight. He's also a victim of all these things that the tethered is. But the tethered, it's one of those things, when you are just blindly angry at who you think has it better, then you're never going to get the actual perpetrator.
Your life's never going to get better.
And
an issue.
This movie also is a critique on the upper class echelons of society and the privileged, because we have like the what's his Josh, the rich friend, saying, I don't want to get up from my comfy place.
Yeah.
Saying, I don't want to go out and deal with these tethered people. I don't want to have to do anything. And
why should I have to
Hands
do it?
Across America is very symbolic of this kind of fake, oh, I'll make myself feel better if I just like...
The Bushes, the Reagans, all these people are standing in there. And like Reagan was the president at the time, and he is doing the Stand Across America BS when he is one of the people who could address the problem head on. But no, he's smiling for a camera, holding Nancy's hand.
Yes, which the Reagans are the perfect example of this fake, like, I'm going to pretend like, oh, I'm just like the most cookie cutter.
Or no, it wasn't the last film, sorry. But a lot of horror films very much critique on Reagan and his administration, because Barbarian did the same thing.
Well, I mean, I think Reaganism... do we really want to get into that on this podcast?
No,
but yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there's a lot there. I think we should be critical of people who are from that echelon of society, right? Like the Reagans.
Yeah.
Regardless of how you feel about their politics, I mean, it's again, they participated in Hands Across America, which was this whole like, oh, fake, let's just put on a show and make a spectacle, and we're not actually doing anything to help the impoverished.
Yeah. So, especially when it's a big failure, because, you know, you can have those big statement, we are the world's Live Aid, whatever, Hands Across America, if it was successful, but the problem was all these people still felt good about what they did, even though they didn't accomplish their goal. They still got to say, I stood across America.
Because it made them look good, and it made them feel good about themselves.
But
it did nothing.
Missed its goal but 10 times over.
Yeah.
And accomplished almost nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jordan Peele, again, knocked it out of the park with us. All those themes were so fun to like dive in and like find little visual like allegories in this movie. So many beautiful motifs.
There's probably even still some that we've missed.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I'm fine with that.
I'm at peace with that, because every time I watch a movie, it's just like, I'll find something new about it. And that's why his movies are so fun to rewatch. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say about us for now. If I think of any other, like, allegories, we will be talking about Nope next week. So maybe I can, like...
Circle back
on it there. But, yeah, overall, such a great movie.
I screamed, I scrumped, I was scared.
I took a shot, and I had many epiphanies.
I laughed, I cried a number of times, I sweat, I danced, I got a shot, I ate, and I had many epiphanies.
Many epiphanies.
Well, Keaton, thank you so much for joining us.
Any time.
It's so nice to have a real life Tethered here with us to offer Tethered insight.
I get the experience of the Tethered. I've been tethered my whole life.
I mean, Raina didn't talk for the first few years.
Yeah, my twin didn't talk for... What? Like, she was developmental... Like, her speech was developed a little bit later. And it's funny because I couldn't really walk until I was 3, and she couldn't really talk till she was 3. So...
And even when she could talk, she still didn't talk that
She only would talk to me.
Was she like...
She would whisper in my ear, can you tell the teacher I need to go to the bathroom? She'd whisper in my ear.
She was shy.
She was a true tethered.
That's so funny.
Shy, reserved, by herself.
Shout out to Raina. Hi, Raina.
Hey, Raina.
All right. Well, that has been it for this episode of Let's Scream. Keaton, thank you so much again.
Of course.
We love having you on. And next week we will be diving into
Nope.
And I'm very excited. I love Nope. Again, another movie where we're gonna have a lot of discussion. These Jordan Peele June pods are long, but
it's Jordan Peele.
But it's Jordan Peele. Got a lot.
The pods are longer than the movies.
Truly, but that's because again, his movies just have there's a lot of discussion.
So much to talk about.
So much, to dissect. So, we hope you're enjoying Jordan Peele June. we thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We hope you had a fun time with us
at Santa Cruz.
Learning about the Tethered. Please remember to follow the pod, like the pod, and leave a glowing review, of course.
Follow the Instagram.
Yes, and the YouTube at Let's Scream Pod. You can also send us movie requests for future episodes. You can follow me at Parker_Will_C. And you can follow me at Stevie-95. And where can they follow you, Keaton?
Jesus _ is a _ biscuit.
Yes.
On Instagram.
And until next time, this has been
Let's Scream.